Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. It is so great to be along with you today. I am happy to announce, see this smile? We are winning again in this country. This country is getting safer again. We're going to be more prosperous again, all because of President Trump. And it starts at the border, and it starts in our metropolitan cities where President Trump and his ICE agents have started mass deportations. 308 people arrested yesterday alone. ICE agents going through many of our nation's biggest cities and arresting the worst of the worst. Now, the reality is the Trump administration is prioritizing, as I want them to, right? I mean, you want them to go after the murderers, the rapists, the child molesters, the drug dealers. Go get them first. They pose the most risk to American citizens. But Tom Homan made it very clear, this is our great border czar, that nobody is immune to deportation if you're here illegally. So you are being put on notice that if you are in the country illegally, somebody could show up at your door and you will be deported. Now, are you more likely to have someone show up at your door if you're a wanted murderer, rapist, child molester, drug dealer, a bruiser, thief, etc.? Yes, but nobody's immune to this, and that's a good thing. Now, the left is out there crying about this. We have no compassion. Take accountability for your actions. If you are here illegally, self-deport yourself now, get in line and come in the legal way. If you don't do that, you're going to make it very hard to get back in the country ever again, at least under the Trump administration. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to play you Tom Homan's very important sound bites on places like CNN and MSNBC and even Fox News to spread the message, a message illegal aliens need to hear. And then I've got a stark warning for you about China. China, the economy is about to collapse. President Trump needs to start the process right now of securing the American economy to get us less reliant on China, because when it collapses, it's going to be bad for the entire global economy. And I'm going to play my interview with Jake Lang, 4 years plus in that D.C. gulag and other prisons, moved around. No trial. He never had a trial date set. Pardoned, finally freed. And I told you there's still J6ers stuck in prison. We're going to talk about that and Speaker Johnson's quest to get a J6 committee. My goal is to make sure they investigate the judges and the prosecutors and the FBI agents who work these cases, because it was really quite deceitful the entire way around. Now, before I do that, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. There's a reason why I am with Patriot Mobile. There's a reason why my service on this phone is a Patriot Mobile service, because I believe in them. And two, I don't want to give my money and fund the woke left. The big three cell phone companies are engaging in all the things that President Trump is pushing back against, all the things that America's only Christian conservative wireless provider pushes back against. Patriot Mobile, funding things to promote gun rights, funding things to promote free speech, out there on the front lines talking about these things. Here's the reality. You choose what network you want to be on. So this is great, right? You're not going to give up service. You get 100% U.S.-based customer service. Switching is super easy. Keep your phone, upgrade your phone, all the same things you do with a regular cell phone company. But this one, you know, they're part of our team. It is Stinchfield's Army official communication provider, Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service, which is a nice savings. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT. You tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, let's go through. We'll start with Tom Homan, the border czar, on Fox News.
What would a person have to do to get a visit from ICE?
For it to be in the country illegally, first of all, I mean, there's nothing in the immigration law that says you got to be convicted of a serious crime to be removed under the INA. So if you're in the country illegally, ICE can visit you. But right now, as we said repeatedly, and the President Trump's been clear, we're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats and national security threats. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals. Some of them were murderers. Some of them were rapists. Some of them raped a child. Some were a sexual assault of a child. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue every day.
Can you imagine if you're an ICE agent today, basically relegated to the sidelines? If you're a Border Patrol agent today, and I'm getting word from Border Patrol that operations have completely stepped up on the United States border. They are going to seal and shut this border down. You know, I was saying it's going to take a little while to get it under control. I don't think so. They are working very quickly. Everybody in detention now should ultimately be deported. No new cases going in front of these asylum judges. This is a remain in Mexico situation. We've got to get all that under control. And all the while, if you're an ICE agent now, you're going to go into Chicago, you're going to go in New York, Dallas, Texas, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And Tom Homan said he has no regard for whether or not you're a sanctuary city or not. Okay? Doesn't matter. This was him earlier yesterday. So that you heard with Lawrence Jones, my good buddy. That was this morning. This is him on Fox News yesterday, where he surprised John Roberts by the swiftness of this deportation plan going into place. But isn't this just like President Trump? He said he's going to do it. He's doing it. Speed is the name of the game. If you remember on Inauguration Day, I sat here and told you on this podcast that one of the themes of this presidency was going to be speed and swiftness of operations. There is no doubt in my mind the Trump administration means business.
Based on your initial schedule, that today roundups of criminal illegal aliens in the process of deporting them would begin. That seems to have been put on hold for a little while. When can we expect that to happen? Where will it begin?
No, it started.
It has started.
ICE teams are out there as of today. We gave them the direction to prioritize public safety threats that we're looking for. So we've been working up the target list. There was some discussion about Chicago because the specific operational plan was released. So we had to look at and reevaluate, does this raise officer safety concerns? And it does. Mm-hmm. But we've addressed that, and teams are out there effective today.
Think about this. You have left-wing radical Democrats in Chicago that somehow get an operational plan for Chicago and release it. You release that, it most certainly will put officers at risk. You cannot have Tren de Aragua, one of the brutal gangs on the world stage today, along with MS-13, knowing when and where ICE agents are going to be and who they're coming for. They'll be waiting, and they'll be there to fight because they don't want to go back to Venezuela. They don't want to go back to El Salvador. They want to stay in cities like Chicago and just about every other city in America. Look what Tren de Aragua did to that apartment complex in Colorado, basically taking it over. Someone snitched on them. They cut their fingers off for calling 911. I mean, this is a brutal, brutal organization. And yet you have the people of Chicago calling for help, wanting help, and their elected leaders are saying, no, not going to happen. This was a woman in Chicago. This is what restores my faith in America. This is how I know America is back on the right track. We have basically shut down the mainstream media. People are waking up of all colors, religions, shapes, sizes, you name it. They're waking up in America.
Very confident. I am confident in this administration. I am confident in Tom Homan getting things done. And I am confident that the Chicagoans are going to step up. We're ready to assist in any way we can. There are those of us who are willing to work with this administration to make sure that people who are here illegally are sent back home. We want to also make sure that those criminals who came here to set up their criminal operations, again, are sent home. And so whatever we have to do as Chicagoans to assist with that, we're ready and willing to help.
See, that woman is using the courts to fight back as well. She sued over the migrants being housed in many of these hotels, the city of Chicago paying for it, the federal government paying for it. And who's being left out literally in the cold? It's wintertime in Chicago. I don't need to tell you that. It's common sense. But my buddy Ben Berkwam was in Chicago, spent a lot of time up there. We have homeless veterans out on the streets, and they're not being taken care of. And yet migrants, they call them, I call them illegal aliens. You can call them migrants, but that's not what they are. They're here illegally. And so they may be well-intentioned. Some of them are not. Make no mistake about that. But they're illegal aliens. And so this woman taking matters into her own, and let's go fight this in court. Well, help's on the way. President Trump is here. So Tom Homan clearly has been making the rounds about all of this. And this was him on with Dana Bash. And she basically tries to set him up here. Okay, so let me play the clip of Tom Homan with Dana Bash on CNN.
You know, I think that there is some kind of image that people might have, given how much we heard President Trump and you in the months during the campaign, and certainly during the transition, talking about what's going to happen of people being rounded up, loaded on buses, and dropping them off on the border. Is that how you see this happening?
Well, I don't like the analogy of rounding up. Look, again, this is a targeted enforcement operation. The president's been clear on this. We're going to concentrate on public safety threats. But in sanctuary cities, where they don't let us take that public safety threat into custody and the safety and security of a jail, we have to go find him. If he's with others in the country illegally, ICE will not turn the blind eye to that. ICE is going to uphold the oath they took. They're going to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and signed by a president. And they're going to do that without apology. I mean, if any sanctuary cities force us in this position, that's exactly what's going to happen.
I want you to think about this, as she's so upset by this. You have, we'll use Los Angeles, for example. Los Angeles does not cooperate with ICE. So that means you've got an illegal alien who is arrested for, say it's a shoplifting arrest, which they don't even arrest for shoplifting. Maybe now with Nathan Hochman, the new DA, they are. Say it's a minor arrest where we're lucky they take them into custody, but they're bonded out or let out. There's usually no bail in L.A. They're let out within hours. But they see that there's an ICE detainer, meaning hold for Immigration's Customs Enforcement. L.A. says we will not do that. So what does that do? Not only does it put the community in danger because they're a hold for a reason. One, they came in illegally, and most likely they're on the radar screen because they're a criminal of some kind. So not only to put the danger onto the general public because they're being let out, but now these ICE agents have to go track them down. They have to go hunt them down. They have to go find them. They've got to go into stairwells and walk around corners of buildings where, their view is blocked or where they can be ambushed. Where instead you've got a prisoner in a jail that's already in handcuffs, that's already in a secure location, that can't hurt anybody. ICE could literally come up, take him by the arm, put him in the back of a car, and drive them to the next location. Without any fights, without any shots fired, without anybody being killed, maimed, stabbed, beaten, whatever it may be. But they have no regard for the law abiding, and that includes the officers involved in trying to capture these people. So it's interesting, Tom Homan doesn't like the term roundup. I don't care if you use the term roundup. Round them all up. They're here illegally. That's what it used to be. When I was a young man in the 80s, I remember the illegal roundups where ICE would come in and what was it? It was called immigration, I guess. It wasn't Immigration Customs, it wasn't ICE, but it was another. And they would come in with the green trucks and they would round up these illegals from places. And sometimes you'd see them running. But it's a new day in America. And Tom Homan really is making it clear that it is a new day.
That don't have a criminal conviction are in the country illegally.
Well, let me get the audio up a little higher for you.
This is the difference between the last administration and this administration. ICE is going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, says you got to be convicted of a serious crime in order to be removed from this country. So there's going to be more collateral arrests in sanctuary cities because they forced us to go in the community and find the guy we're looking for.
So nothing to say you have to be convicted of a crime, which then this gets back to the warning to every single person that's here illegally. You made the choice to come in that wasn't legal in the eyes of the United States. Now, it may have been the Biden administration turning a blind eye, but that was temporary. You knew he's only in office for 4 years. So you make a conscious decision, but the Democrats don't want anybody to take responsibility for their actions. I think the difference between conservatives and liberals in many respects is the ability for individual accountability, responsibility for your own success, and of course, for actions when you do things wrong. It certainly, in my opinion, goes both ways. I'm going to play you some clips from the public of what they're up against, these Border Patrol agents. We've got a great talk with my friend over at Colonial Metals about China and the looming collapse of the economy there and what that's going to do to the United States and how you can protect yourself. That is a conversation you don't want to miss. That's going to come up in just a moment. But before we get there, I want to tell you about my friends over at get21now.com. That's get21now.com. Here's what I'm talking about. Bitcoin mining, okay? You want to take part in it? You want to get guaranteed, contractually guaranteed, up to 21% interest on your investment? Get with my friends over at NFN8. They have institutionalized the mining business, giant warehouses, buying the electricity super cheap. They can produce, well, I should say mine Bitcoin at a far cheaper rate than they could sell it on the open market. So they're making a lot of money here. And they keep wanting to expand. So they're asking you want to invest? They'll pay you up to 21% interest annualized. Deposit the money into your account every month. It's cash flow money. It's mailbox money. And you don't have to do anything for it but sit back and watch. I love it. They have lived up to their promises to me. I've been with them, 6-7 months now. Like clockwork, that money gets deposited, and it's been fabulous. I'm actually now considering making another sizable investment with them because the money's just too easy. What is right for you? How much is right for you? Talk to them. But if they call you, call them back, or even better, just answer the phone. Get21now.com, get21now.com. Fill out the form there. They'll get right to you. They're busy. This has been a very, very popular investment that's only being advertised on this program, by the way. And my Stinchfield's Army members are eating it up. So talk to them. Talk to my buddy Corey over there. You're going to love them. And see what they can do for you. Get21now.com. Tell them Grant sent you, of course. All right. This is what Tom Homan and his folks are up against. I can't believe I'm getting a little cough again. Not good. Here we go.
Since our last meeting, the nation has learned the outcome of the most recent presidential and other elections across the country. These results have created a lot of feelings, and rightly so, in many members of our community. This election was incredibly important and consequential, and we are already starting to feel the impact. One of the groups that...
So this, folks, is in a school district, and they're getting ready to not cooperate with ICE. So again, another sanctuary school district. But Tom Homan has said, you're not safe in a church. You're not safe in a school. You're not safe anywhere. If you're wanted, we're coming to get you.
Of our community that has recently come under attack in the administrative changes is our beloved immigrant and refugee community. And less specific.
Beloved immigrant and refugee community. Beloved. Look, if you come here legally, you're beloved. I love legal immigrants. My great-grandfather was a legal immigrant. I love every one of you. America was built on immigration. I do not dispute that. It was not built on illegal immigration.
Required by a valid court order, Portland Public Schools employees, contractors, volunteers, and representatives will not use district resources for the purpose of detecting or assisting in the apprehension of persons whose only violation of law is or may be an undocumented resident in the United States or failing to produce documents authorizing residency in the United States. Just a reminder that there are no current plans for mass deportation or other action, but we're doing everything that we can to be prepared should this become the case.
Well, it is the case, and it's here. As I said, 308 arrests yesterday. They will plan to be deported. I'm sure you're going to see more today, and that number will increase on a daily basis because they're going to get good at this. All right. ICE has been out of practice of going and hunting down these violent criminals that are here illegally. They've been out of practice. They'll get practiced up pretty darn quickly. Now, what does the left say about all of this? This is the Attorney General in Arizona. Now, Arizona is a border state. We've put these two. It wasn't me, but I saw it on social media. The clip together of the Attorney General in Arizona basically comparing these locations where illegals are going to be taken and be prepared for deportation to concentration camps. I want the Democrats to knock off the Nazi comparisons. If you're Jewish, if you have a family member that died during the Holocaust, stop comparing something that's not even close to the Holocaust to the Holocaust. It's despicable. It's disgusting. It makes my stomach churn, and it's out of line. And it's not a valid comparison, not even close. So this is her, and then I'm going to play you Tom Homan's response. It's all in one here.
I also will not have any part of and will fight the attempt to set up what I believe are essentially concentration camps and family separation camps in the state of Arizona.
I also am insulted by the term concentration camps. Are you serious? You're comparing ICE agents. We just lost a Border Patrol agent to a shooting up in Vermont yesterday, and they're the Gestapo. Are you serious? Concentration camps? ICE has detention centers. They have the best standards in the entire industry. I'll compare ICE detention standards to any state or federal facility or any county facility in the entire world. We have the highest detention standards, so that's an insult and it's a lie.
So Tom Homan making the rounds, as well he should be, making the case for President Trump's quest to make America safe again. That's all we really, really want, right? In the end is let's get a safe and secure and prosperous America. So this is what's happening now on the border. This is a news report, I believe, from Brownsville talking about the bridge. And it's like this little, this is small market TV, folks. All right. But they're like shocked this is happening. President Trump told you it was going to happen. Why is anybody surprised at this?
Short time, I spoke to a CBP official who said exercises on the bridge, which are called hardening, are frequently done. But what we haven't seen since the last Trump administration is this public show of force on the public street. I spoke with a gentleman from Brownsville who said he was waiting for his wife, who is pregnant, to walk over the bridge from Matamoros, Mexico. He said he was parked near the bridge and was ordered to leave with no reason.
Well, they don't want you loitering near the bridge. So leave. And you know what? We're shutting it down. They thought they could just walk across the bridge back and forth. Now, if you're a United States citizen, you're not going to have a problem getting across that bridge. Over the next few days, few weeks, few months, it may be a longer line as the illegals learn it's not easy to get in across that bridge. So it might be a little longer delay. But once they get the message, it's closed. And, we heard, you know what? It was the Rumble chat. So let me go to the Rumble chat, okay? Blackjack 007, it's a cool name, by the way, Blackjack, says, I feel sorry for these people, but no country can afford to take care of other countries' people. So I actually do feel sorry for the well-intentioned illegals that are here. And I also think they were sold a bill of goods that didn't really exist. And who sold that bill of goods? Well, Joe Biden is the first one. I mean, they basically told them it was legal to come in here and sneak in and use the CBP One app when really it wasn't. It was an end run that I believe was unconstitutional. They lied to these illegals. The cartels lied to the illegals as well. Oh, the border's open. There are so many, you go south into Central America, they would tell you the border's open, that you're just allowed to walk in. And this was a message that the Biden administration never pushed back on. So in some respects, for the well-intentioned, I do feel sorry for them because they were told, come on in. The problem is they didn't do their homework and they didn't study. So in the end, we've got to clean up our country. And if you're here illegally, you know what? Not my fault. It's the bottom line in all of it. All right. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Colonial Metals. So these guys are great, okay? freegoldguy.com/grant, 800-458-7356. I want to talk to the main dude over there at Colonial Metals, who's been so great to so many of our viewers, because Paul Stone and I were talking about China and the threat that the China collapse, and that economy is on the verge of collapsing, will pose to the American economy. And so I want to talk to Paul Stone. So with that, let me welcome Paul Stone in to the program. Paul Stone with Colonial Metals Group. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Thank you. Great to be back. Happy 2025 to you and everyone watching.
Oh, well, it's a great time in the country right now. And I'm telling people it's a great time to buy gold as well. You and I were talking, one of the reasons why it's such a great time to start thinking about putting money in gold is because of what's going on with China. We talk a lot about China buying up gold, but there's another side to this as well. Why don't you kind of lay this out for us?
You know, China, in a way, is a, you know, I don't really speak or spend any time talking negatively about the people. The government's decisions is what I focus on. We could certainly lay blame at certain people in government making decisions that are harmful to other earth dwellers because we didn't ask for them to ruin our lives or manage our lives, right? So we can hate them for that crap.
You know, I want to reiterate what you said here because this is very important. Our beef is not with the Chinese people. In fact, I think they're oppressed and victims of this regime. Yeah. My beef is with the CCP, and I know this is what you and I are steadfast on this. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like Philly fans that just hate everyone that isn't Philly.
That's right.
You know, they make it personal. They're the only stadium with their own jail.
Yeah,
so
I know.
We're just regular fans that are rooting for our team. And we like it when, you know, all teams do well because that makes the games more fun. We wish China was more of a sportsman rather than a cheater. Their government makes these decisions that causes cheating. So I think they're a bit of an artificial nation, if you will. They built a wall. You can see it from space. They wanted to be left alone. They didn't really participate on the world stage forever. Nixon kicks the doors open to conversating with them about joining the world. And Clinton really made an effort to set up factories there and cause our factories to close here in America. And, you know, well, the consumer's going to pay less for kitchen towels at Walmart. That'll be a good thing, right? Now we lose our jobs, asshole. So that wasn't a good thing. So China, in a way, doesn't know how to handle all this money. But they are communist, and there seems to be something in the water communists drink where they need to just take over the whole world. They can't just oppress their own people. They got to oppress everybody. So as China's financial situation gets more and more desperate, because they really don't know what they're doing, they've never been here before. They've never had trillions of dollars before. Their economy in 1990 was $330 billion. Wow. That's it. Texas is a $2 trillion economy. You know, there were 66 billionaires in America in 1990. There were none in China.
Wow.
So when you look at what they cared about, they did not care about global finance or going to space or creating armies and navies that could attack the world. They didn't care about supercomputers and AI. They didn't care about spying on every piece of thing and stealing all the data that exists in databases around the world. They didn't care about that stuff. Why do they care about it today? Because our stupid government fueled them with tons of money. Mm-hmm. But they don't know how to manage it, neither do ours. So they're about to implode. Their debt to GDP is 300%. They kind of owe 300% more than they produce in a year. That's a really backwards way to be. That's a destructive way to be. It's untenable. Eventually they bust. What does a communist country full of all that honor code and that face that they need to keep, right? Just like the Soviets, when Chernobyl blew up and they're sitting, if we all saw that documentary and the guy's saying, that's lead. And the guy goes, that's not lead. Lead is only at the core of a nuclear reactor. It's the only place you use it. So if you see lead on the surface, your core blew up, which means all the worst things that could possibly happen to a reactor happened. But the Soviets are like, that didn't happen. And the communist Chinese are the same way. So as they cover up their mistakes and their they try and save face and take over the world, which means they make very desperate actions against America to do that because they're just not going to go down. To them, second place is just a loser.
Yeah. So I've seen and read that their real estate market is in dire straits, that the debt they hold is just, they're not going to be able to survive this. What does that do to America? So say you're correct in this position that China's economy ultimately collapses. We are so tied to China in so many ways. What does that do to us? And specifically, if I'm trying to protect people and protect their nest egg and protect their portfolio, gold, I guess, would be a safe haven from a Chinese collapsing economy. Is that right?
What gold always is money not in the dollar. It's money not in the financial world. It's money not in high-flying, wildly inflated assets. So it's permanent money in a way. I don't want to say that like a financial advisor, like my crystal ball is telling someone something like that. But in a way, it's like Gold, so when you just look at the recent history on gold, it was $300 at the turn of the century back in 2000. Has it ever been $300 again? No. It was $700 in 08. It rose to 2000. Has it ever been $700 again? No. It's always been higher than that. Now it's at 2,600. So it's back above the high that was set in 2012 when the bad stuff was, kind of coming to a close from the 08 recession. So gold, in a way, if you get into it, it seems, before the crisis, you'll never see it that low again. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean. In a way, it's like permanent money. Now, when the wheels fall off and you're getting into it in 2010, 2011, and you're way in the middle of a recession, to me, timing's not so good. Mm-hmm. You want to have fire insurance before the fire.
Before the fire.
So you got to be early to this, but back up just a little. When we say, how does China's implosion affect Americans? Let's look at it. So we used to make everything. Now we don't. Only 11%. Thank you, politicians, for this. You might think they're great people. What? They make terrible decisions about us.
Nobody watching this thinks any of them are great people except for President Trump. We're the only one that we're behind.
In 1990, just a little while ago, 82% of the stuff that was consumed here in America was made in America. Yeah. Today, 11%. Mm. So go cry a river when we hang up the show today. And just how sad that is. Yeah. 75,000 manufacturing firms that used to operate in America are now dead. That's 23 manufacturing firms in every county in this country, including Alaska and Hawaii, just to try and give a perspective on that. You don't have 23 7-Elevens in a county.
Mm. Yeah.
You probably don't have 20. You might have 23 gas stations in some counties, probably not. So just think about that. So when you go to Walmart, because you want a new set of kitchen towels, they aren't there. Our economy isn't make anything anymore because China's imploded. Our economy is driven by you guys spending tons of money and racking up $1 trillion in credit card debt. There is no economy in America without you spending money. So if there isn't stuff to spend money on because China went and imploded and didn't ship it to us anymore, then we're dead too.
Yeah.
And we're more dead than they are because they're still mostly used to being a third world country.
So what does that...
anyone watching, who knows, probably watching this show, you know how to change your own oil if you had to?
Yeah.
But most of this country, would they even know where to look? I don't know. Some of the cars you make today, you can't even get to the engine.
Yeah. So what if that happens then? Our economy then
not
just
if when. Not if when. Not if when. When it happens. Mathematically, It has to happen. China's marching down a path and can't change its path. DC is walking down its path and isn't going to change its path. When you see a trajectory to things that has never had a blip or a U-turn into it, you have to assume it stays on its path forever until it hits the hard stop.
Yeah. And I think President Trump slows down the inevitable. The inevitable still happens. They can have Doge come in all they want. Doge is going to be able to do what they think they're going to do. The bureaucracy in the swamp is so dug in. The amount of money being spent in Washington is just so out of control. I think they're going to be very frustrated when they see that they're not able to save the money that they want. And even what little money they do save, maybe it staves us off for a little bit. But ultimately, as you said, what before we came on the program, why don't you run it out for me? What we spend on Medicare, Social Security, and Department of Defense.
Okay. So this is the boring part, but please, guys, hear me because you've got to know the source of the problem. It's not a mystery. The baby boomers retired in 97. That's 60 million people that leave plowing your financial fields. They leave. So now you have a lot less plowing going on, which means a lot less economic production. Okay, that hurts. Yeah. To make that even worse, you have to build them little cottages to go live in. You have to feed them and give them health care and some other stuff. You got to give them some money. So not only do you lose a massive part of production from your black ink economy that we'd had for all these years, 40, 50 years, now you're in the red forever. So the government has to print this money because the economy isn't producing the money to give them all this stuff. And today, Medicare is $1.5 trillion. Social Security, give them some money so they can buy some stuff, is $2.5 trillion. And to protect the country, it's $1 trillion. So that's $5 trillion right there. Now back to the original statement. And then there's the end thing I'll end with. If we're a spending-driven economy and Doge cuts $2 trillion from the government budget, that means the economy goes without $2 trillion, which means we struggle or suffer mightily or implode. It's like Jenga. Eventually, there's just one piece left that you pull out and the whole thing falls down. Yeah. Eventually, there's just one little piece left, or the the straw that broke the donkey's back, or whatever the saying is. He could handle all these bales of hay. And then you're like, can you just carry this one last piece of straw? And his back breaks in half.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no way out of this, guys. Trump doesn't carry a magic wand. I voted for him. I told people to vote for him. And come on. Kamala can't even have a conversation. The last piece about this is this. So as the government prints and pays those bills, the economy didn't produce money to pay, commodity prices go up, inflation. So then they have to print more to pay the new level of higher bills, and the costs go up, and they print more, and the costs go up, and they print more, and the costs go up. Trump can't stop the source of the bills. If you, mathematically speaking, if you just terminated everyone's life on Social Security, you'd have a shot at kind of stopping the bleeding.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one's doing that. I'm not proposing that. Don't create any sound bites that cause me to say anything whack.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking mathematically. You can't eradicate the source of the bills, so the bills stay and they keep getting bigger because the government's stupid idea to pay its bills is print money, which causes the cost to go up. Trump can't stop unless you're going to end Social Security, Medicare, and the military, you can't stop this destruction.
The reality is that no politician wants to talk about Social Security. I understand why they don't. They want to do a greater good to get elected. And if you got to get into office, you can't be telling people you need to cut Social Security, even though if we want to get America back on track, something has to be done to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the entitlements that are literally draining this country dry. Lastly, this just real quick, and you tell me if I'm wrong here. So all the things we're talking about, I like to trade, stocks and all kinds of things. I dabble in all this stuff. I put my money in gold for the long term, let it sit there and protect my portfolio as a portfolio protection maneuver. That's the phrase I use all the time. But when I'm fooling around day trading, I trade what I call technical analysis, which I look at the charts, and I trade the bounces and reversals and all this stuff. And I believe it's a good educated guess. Everything we've talked about is fundamentals. A lot of people trade off of fundamentals. When you look at a gold chart, since the beginning of time, it basically goes up. I mean, you have little points, but it is a steady climb up. It's the only thing I've ever seen like this of anything that I've ever traded where you have a steady climb up like that.
Yeah. So here's the reality. Line up a debt increasing chart, the federal debt chart, line that up, line up the stock market, line up gold and silver. Gold and silver goes up because of the money printing. But if the money printing stops, gold and silver doesn't go down.
Yeah.
But the market can break. When the dollar can't be created anymore, the dollar's a resource. Just picture it in a mine. The Fed, the government has removed 97% of that mine. They've emptied that mine into the economy. 97% of the mine is now a giant frickin' hole.
Mm-hmm.
So 3% dollars remaining in the mine. That's all you got left to dig up and throw into the economy to keep the lights on. So when you run to ground zero, everything that money printing supports, which is 401k contributions twice a month, go into the market.
Yeah.
If they didn't print the money, there's no jobs. No jobs, no 401k contributions. The market isn't getting new money. Where do you think the new money is coming from? Look at the debt chart. Where do you think that money goes?
Of course. Yeah.
A lot of it ends up in the markets. It ends up in real estate. Banks can lend 10 times the amount of money they're sitting on, which means they get to print money too since Clinton.
And
so if there's $1 billion in a bank from all of our deposits, they can lend 10 billion. Where's the 10 billion come from? Thin air.
Yeah.
So when you look at just how ridiculous the financial world is predicated on fake money, then you understand the values are fake. And you understand the longevity of it being this kind of a party for some people in America. Mostly it's a horror show. But for most of us that are, doing okay and got some savings, we've benefited from the printing money. When you leave the system and freeze that value in gold and silver, well, now you're talking about perhaps, historically speaking, permanent money.
Yeah.
But if you stay in the dollar and ride this baby back down, then you give up all the gains and you end up crying a river of woe and you end up eating Alpo on a sidewalk.
Well,
now there is no more money for Social Security. There is no money for the military, and there is no money for Medicare.
We clearly don't want anyone to do that. So what I would urge for people to do is get in touch with you and your team. The website there is freegoldguide.com/grant. I'll tell people more about how to get in touch with you, Paul. But all this stuff is really fascinating. It's eye-opening. In some respects, it's scary, but it doesn't need to be if you take the precaution out. Just what Paul says, don't buy fire insurance after the fire. People in California know all about that. Take the precautions now. So, hey, Paul, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you for your support of this program and all the others you support on Rumble, that great outlet of freedom. And believe me, we're really appreciative for all the help on that front.
Well, thank you. And thanks for having me. Thanks for putting up with me. Thanks for letting me ramble. And hopefully I said a few things that make sense. You know, when you look at the math, you're looking at the source. Yeah. We don't want to treat symptoms. You know, you can't treat cancer by rubbing some Bengay on your arm. You got to go to the source. The source is the math. Math is also a language, and it's the only language that cannot lie.
Yeah.
It literally cannot lie.
So I would tell people, and Paul, thank you. I would tell people that Paul speaks a lot of common sense here. So if you're listening to this, you're saying, hey, you know what? I better make a move to at least protect what I worked so hard for. Let me take a look at gold and silver. Let me talk to the folks over at Colonial Metals. Look, I'm going to tell you, I get a lot of gold companies asking me, hey, Grant, I want to come on the podcast. I want to come on. Can you do? There's a reason why I choose Colonial Metals Group is because I've gotten to know Paul. I know the people over there, and so many of my Rumble teammates trust Paul. So many of all of you have used Colonial Metals to great success, and there's a lot of choices, but go with the group that you can trust. Colonial Metals Group, freegoldguide.com/Grant. Of course, you can use the QR code up on the top of your screen. freegoldguide.com/Grant, or you can use the phone number 800-458-7356. That's 800-458-7356. freegoldguide.com/Grant.
You stated that you will release the files, all of the files, as it relates to the JFK assassination. And by the way, this is his desk.
Yeah, that's right.
This is where John Kennedy, little
John Kennedy. It's a movable door.
Yeah.
It's a little door there. That's where John was.
John, yeah. And RFK, and also Martin Luther King Jr., and that you will be transparent. This was going to happen in the first
So many
time.
people have asked me to do that. And I did it with Kennedy to an extent, but I was asked by some of our government officials not to. And, you know, you have to respect them. I was actually asked by Mike Pompeo, who's Secretary of State, not to. And I felt he knew something that maybe, you know, when he asks you not to, you sort of say, why? And he felt that it was just not a good time to release him. And you might ask him why. Maybe he'll deny that even. But he did. He asked me. And some others also, though. They didn't want the Kennedy stuff released. And they're professionals, and I respect them. And they're working for me and the country. They're working for the country. And so I didn't release. But I'm going to release them immediately upon getting. We're going to see the information. We're looking at it right now.
So notice he kind of hedges his bet. We're going to release him immediately, but we're looking at the information. Well, he's seen this information already. What about the UFO files? He's seen that information, unless there's new information coming out. Now, why doesn't a guy like Pompeo want these files released? So I apologize. I had no sound leading into President Trump. I had my mute button on when I was airing the last interview. Mike Pompeo, I believe, was a good Secretary of State. I believe Mike Pompeo is actually a decent guy, too. He just falls on a couple little things where I don't really fall. He's a little closer to the deep state than I would like, but I think he's a decent guy, and I think he truly does love America. But why does he not want these files released? Mike Pompeo says, no, don't release them. Now, remember, he's a CIA guy. CIA guys are always at the root of all the problems, right? I mean, they're always running some kind of operation. So Pompeo says he doesn't want him released. I saw this when Pompeo was interviewed on John Stossel, and he was asked about the last administration. President Trump was going to release him, and Pompeo was the one who said, no, don't release him. And I guess President Trump listened to him. This is Pompeo talking to John Stossel about why he didn't want it released, and I just don't buy any of this. I think the people have a right. We're smart enough in this idea that, names and addresses will be released. Okay, well, leave the names in because I think those are important, but you can redact the addresses.
Because I was trying to keep Americans safe. And by the way, don't paint with too broad a brush. 99.6% of the JFK files are public today.
But it was 60 years ago.
John, not everything was 60 years ago. And I don't want to spend a lot of time walking through this, but suffice it to say, the definition of a document covered by this statute that you're referring to, it's a little bit wonky, but suffice it to say, if Congress holds a hearing tomorrow on the Kennedy assassination, the documents generated tomorrow will be part of those files. Those would be tomorrow, they'd be 60 seconds old, not 60 years old.
Yeah, but it's semantics. Because what John Stossel's saying is this story, this event is 60 years old. The thing surrounding it is 60 years old. Don't give me semantics about when a document was printed. Okay? The information is old. That's what we're talking about. Not that the document's on a piece of paper. So I could print out the Declaration of Independence. It doesn't mean that that's 60 seconds old just because I printed it out. That's ridiculous argument. Now, what's in it? And he says, make no mistake, 99% is released. Well, yeah, I get that. We want the 1%. What's the 1% that's not released? It's got to be real important. Got to be real shady, man. Shady.
And last thing I'll say is there are things that happened 60 years ago that are still important to keep in the vault. There are lots of things that happened that long ago that still are appropriate not to release. Think of names and addresses and families. And by the way, there's also no value in them. These don't hold the dark secrets that everybody wants to just hold up as the bogeyman. I saw the UFO files too. We've got bigger problems. North America, lots of bigger problems.
Wait, so what's he saying here? Because it was confusing. Do we have bigger problems because of what's in the UFO files? Or America has bigger problems, don't worry about JFK and the UFO files? I don't know. I think he was saying the latter, but I'm not really sure.
Just because something is kept secret will not go to the darkest corners. But it's a lot of fun. I'm happy to go there with you if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun. See, it's a lot of fun. Don't go to the darkest corners. No, you don't want us to go to the darkest corners because something is suspicious. I'll use the word nefarious. I promise you our government, our CIA, played some role in the JFK assassination. These documents need to be released. And even if President Trump says release them all, we already heard from some members of the deep state that were caught on undercover cameras by James O'Keefe and others. Said they were keeping intelligence from President Trump. How do we know he's seeing all of the files? How do we know there's not somebody in the CIA that says, nope, not giving that up? It's going to stay there in the files. How do we know many of it wasn't destroyed already or ordered destroyed by one of these CIA directors? The reality is we don't. We have to have trust. And I don't trust our government. So even when he says they're released, I don't even trust it's everything. Do you? Seriously, do you? Stossel asks a question.
I'm no expert in this, but it just makes no sense to me. The 60 years ago that there are things in there you've got.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
Hypothetically, just for example.
Imagine you had an operative operating somewhere in the world who was 20 years old at the time they were doing that work. 60 years ago puts them at 80 today. Average lifespan of an American male, something in that range. Yeah, you should keep their identity secret.
Why? Why should you keep their identity secret? Why can't you reveal their identity? What did they do that was so bad that they can't be revealed? And if they were spying on Russia 60 years ago as part of their duties as CIA, anybody in Russia really meant they're going to go kill an 80-year-old man for what he did 60 years ago? I mean, come on. Come on. And if somebody was in such a spot you shouldn't release their name, then redact their name, but make sure somebody from Congress knows why it was redacted. All right. I don't want anybody getting killed over anything. But I think they use this as an excuse to cover up stuff.
But this was the Kennedy assassination in America.
Right. Exactly. Precisely right. Remember what the scope of these files is, John. The scope of these files isn't reduced to just what was happening inside the United States government. The scope of these files is legion. Anything that was talked about in the course of, there were hearings in the 90s, there were hearings in the 2000s, they ran far afield around the world. Anything that was part of those files is included in this. And so I had a chance to see not all of those documents, but most of them. The news value of them is grossly overrated, and the desire to keep them secret, the motivation, the rationale for keeping them secret
is valid. He says. So listen, if it's grossly overrated, the news value, then let us decide. And if it's not grossly overrated, see, I don't like him deciding for me what I think is grossly overrated. Not these deep staters, these big time, long time government people don't understand what a real story is and what the American people care about. So please let us decide. You don't need to decide for us. You sound like a Democrat when you say that. So I hope President Trump does carry through with his promises to release this. I'd like to see the UFO files as well. I mean, I'm fascinated by this whole UFO stuff. I really am. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this Starlight program. And I want to issue a word of caution to both sides on this issue. This is the AI mRNA vaccine being pushed by Larry Ellison at the behest of President Trump and all of the backlash on this. I want to tell you about it, but before I do, let me first tell you about my friends over at Energized Health, and then I'm going to give you a way to talk about this with your friends, okay? First off, Energized Health. You're not going to need mRNA vaccines if you're with energizedhealth.com/grant, because you're going to get healthy at a cellular level, hydrated at a cellular level. And John Jubilee, the founder, he hasn't been to a doctor in 20-something years. I mean, this is how much it's working for him. Now, I will tell you, I lost 15 pounds on this total mind, body, nutrition program. I mean, runs the gamut, right? How I eat, what I eat, how I work out, when I work out. Nothing crazy. Nothing kills me. In fact, I don't even call it a diet. I just call it a program because I can follow it for my entire life. I still eat most of the same foods I always ate before. I just changed a little bit about the way how I eat them and when I eat them. The workout, same way. Workout's not hard, but this all leads back to cellular hydration and what it can do for you on that level, getting rid of visceral fat, the fat around your organs, building muscle mass, reducing fat, energy, skin clears up, your mind gets sharper, all of it. Thanks to the Energized Health program. And I can say this because I've been through it and it worked for me. EnergizedHealth.com/grant. They've got a 99.1% success rate. They've got a full money back guarantee. And again, this is a total mind, body, soul program. Weekly Zoom calls, daily videos. There's the guidebooks. There's a personal coaching. You name it, they have it for you to succeed. So again, go to EnergizedHealth.com/grant. All right, this Stargate program, the mRNA vaccine. I don't want to hear about mRNA vaccines. I don't like the idea of mRNA vaccines. But I'm going to tell you something that I know about President Trump. President Trump is so focused on coming up with cures to devastating diseases. Now, he runs in two circles. He runs in a circle most of us don't run in. That's with the billionaires and millionaires. The other circle he runs in is the circle we do run in. It's the Make America Great Again crowd. So he's got a balance too, and he's got all sides pushing in his ear, and they're telling him, President Trump, China is on this AI, mRNA stuff, and they're going to cure cancer before us, and they're going to be ahead of the learning curve on this with us, and we've got to catch up with China. It's China. And President Trump hears that, and he says, I don't want to lose to China. And I'm appreciative of President Trump for that. The other side is saying, I don't want mRNA vaccines. I don't want any of this. Now, look, I don't have a lot of faith in mRNA vaccines after everything I've been through. I'm going to choose not to take this. I'm not saying I don't want them to just... You could experiment. on these things. Just don't experiment on me. So what I'm offering up to President Trump is, when you talk about this, one, don't make it a main part of your platform, okay? Because so many of the Make America Great Again folks don't want to hear this, especially the Make America Healthy Again folks that are part of this MAGA movement don't want to hear about this. I'd like to know what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has to say about all this. So don't make it a main focus. But you have to make sure when you're talking about this that you're talking about choice, that this will never be mandated, that the government is never going to push this. They're never going to make your doctors push this. And then fall back, Mr. President, on your right to try. Mr. President, you were instrumental in doing something that was so common sense, that if you were dying of some rare disease and the government told you, no, you can't try this experimental drug, you said, yes, you can. You said you can make your own decision and try it. So you know what? If you can find a cure for cancer, and mRNA does this without killing the masses, right? Then have at it. But make sure you're not forcing it on people, and make sure that you fall back on, this is your right to try this stuff. Nobody is going to mandate it. I'm not a big fan of throwing government money at this. I don't like public-private partnerships. If private enterprise wants to engage in this, fine. And I would also, every time they talk about this stuff, you should be pushing, Mr. President, in my most humble opinion, no more gain-of-function research. So you're not going to have to worry about that either. We're going to do away with gain-of-function research of all levels, and we're going to cut the funding out for gain-of-function research. You know, this is what started the whole COVID debacle off in the first place. So that would be my message about this, that you can't look Make America Healthy Again folks in the eye and tout the benefits of mRNA to them, because they're not going to hear you. They are not. And I'm not convinced there are benefits to mRNA. I'm open to looking at it, but I'm really gun shy after what happened to us. Just embrace those feelings. Have empathy to those people. And your billionaire friends, be careful, because just as I don't want lobbyists in Washington, I really don't want billionaires in Washington either. I want people in Washington, real people. And I don't want to get to the idea where we become so pro-business that we lose sight of what is pro-free markets. This is why I hate when Republicans say, oh, I'm a pro-business Republican. I don't ever want anybody to be a pro-business Republican. In fact, I don't want anyone to be a pro-anybody, a pro-consumer Republican. No, I want you to be a pro-free market Republican, meaning let the free markets rule. Get government out of the way, see what comes out, and if there's evidence that these things are becoming dangerous, then you step in and you regulate. But in the end, it's people's choices. And in the end, a true free market, people would decide on all this stuff, and the government stays out of it completely. I'd be better off with that than the government getting anywhere involved in this. Nurse Laura says he also wants to bring our economy back, but this is a big deal. He's using words like infrastructure, just needs to listen to the people. He said he was going to give the power to us. I agree with you, Nurse Laura. I was confused by the infrastructure, AI infrastructure. AI, I have told you, I believe is one of the greatest threats to mankind. It can also have a great use to mankind, just like a nuclear bomb. One of the greatest threats to mankind, but also serves great use when used in the right way. So this is scary times right now with artificial intelligence. Elon Musk is out there basically saying, hey, look, it was supposed to be open AI. Remember that nonprofit, Sam Altman? He raised some concerns about how dangerous AI could be, but yet he's still involved. And it was supposed to be open AI, open source AI, which means the world could see it. Now we're getting to closed source AI, not nonprofit, but for profit. So it's the complete opposite of what they were claiming would be out there. So we're keeping an eye on it. I've talked to some in the administration about this to voice your concerns about this to them. I have complete trust in President Trump that he's not going to make the same mistakes that he got duped the first time around from Dr. Fauci. Now, I will also say this about Larry Ellison. I'm not sure Larry Ellison cares about curing cancer. I think Larry Ellison of Oracle cares about making money. So let's weigh that as well. But President Trump sees all this. He sees the field, okay? Let it play out, and he's got a lot more people around him that he can trust than he did the first time around. So I'm going to let this play out before I go, really screaming and yelling, and just realize as we give advice, or I try to gently give advice to the Trump administration, talk about choice and talk about your right to try and how this would fall into that as well as fundamental tenets of what we do with healthcare. All right. With that, folks, you guys are fabulous. You really are. And hey, don't forget, speaking of which, when you talk about health, Wellness Company, upside down. Wellness Company, these kits are great. All right. So you don't need the crazy COVID vaccine. They got ivermectin in here. More and more studies say ivermectin, even taken daily now, they're saying ivermectin has some real good uses as a preventative. So in here, most common medications you can find, antivirals, antiparasitics, including ivermectin, amoxicillin in here. I tell you all the time, I use it for strep throat, and it cured me up right away. It's great. TWC.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off and get prepared. That kit right there that I showed you, this one, it could save a life in your family. If, God forbid, tragedy strikes, you've got drugstores closed down. Maybe it's wildfires. Maybe it's a hurricane. Maybe it's a cyber attack. Who knows? But you'll be prepared. Get food, get water, get ammunition, get your guns, get power supply in place, but also have prescription medications. TWC.health/grant. All right, folks. That's going to do it for us. I'm grateful to all of you. Real America's Voice show. Tonight, we're going to talk about the World Economic Forum. President Trump spoke via video to the folks at the World Economic Forum. He let them have it, which was fabulous. Larry Fink of BlackRock gets approached. I'll have the audio and video of that. So that's good stuff. And then Enrique Tarrio. This was the founder of the Proud Boys, who got 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy. And he's out thanks to President Trump's pardon. Well, we're going to talk to him. He is my guest tonight, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. The Proud Boys were vilified, 22 years for a crime that was never, ever committed. Very sad, but thankfully President Trump is back. So we got a big show on the Real America's Voice program. That's 7 p.m. Eastern time every night on Real America's Voice. Check it out. Roku, Pluto, Samsung TV, all the apps, the website, you name it. We stream on Getter and Rumble and all those places. So there's a million places to see the Rav show. I appreciate all of you. Stinchfield's Army rolls, folks. We will see you very soon.